They say some bonds are not created by choice, but written long before we are even born. Stronger than crowns, stronger than kingdoms, and sometimes even stronger than truth itself. But in the Valley of Elaria there existed a friendship so pure, so deeply rooted in trust and understanding, that even the wind seemed to protect it. Yet no one in that valley ever imagined that even the strongest connections do not break loudly. Sometimes they fade quietly, like light disappearing before sunrise. Because sometimes you don't lose a person, you lose the version of them that once belonged to you. And that kind of loss does not scream. It slowly becomes silence. In the hidden Valley of Elaria, where golden sunlight touched endless green fields and rivers reflected the sky like liquid glass, two powerful kingdoms stood in perfect balance, not as enemies, not as rivals, but as harmony itself. On the eastern side stood the kingdom of Aurora, ruled by Queen Lyra, a young queen known for her emotional heart, fearless decisions, and deep compassion. And on the western side stood the kingdom of Selene, ruled by Queen Selene, a queen known for her calm intelligence, silent strength, and unmatched wisdom. But beyond these two queens, there was another presence in the story, a woman whose influence shaped one of them deeply, Queen Lyra's mother, Dowager Queen Eowyn, a former ruler who had stepped down from the throne, but not from wisdom. A woman who had seen wars, betrayals, friendships breaking, and kingdoms falling because of emotions left unchecked. She was not a villain nor a strict ruler, but a deeply observant soul who understood something that others ignored. Even love and friendship need boundaries, or they become fragile. As children, Lyra and Selene met at the sacred garden, a place untouched by war, untouched by greed, untouched by time, where flowers bloomed endlessly and the river never stopped singing. That garden became their escape from crowns, responsibilities, and expectations. Every morning without fail they would meet there. Lyra would arrive first, running barefoot through the flowers, laughing at nothing, at everything. Selene would arrive later, walking slowly, observing the world with quiet curiosity. Lyra spoke like fire. She expressed everything she felt without fear. She laughed loudly, trusted easily, and loved deeply. Selene spoke like silence. She chose her words carefully, understood emotions without explanation, and often said more through her eyes than her voice. Together they created a balance that no kingdom ever fully understood, but everyone respected. And in those early years, Dowager Queen Eowyn often watched from a distance, not interfering, but observing something rare. Two souls so different, yet so aligned that even time seemed to pause around them. Eowyn once told Lyra softly during her childhood, "Friendships like this are rare, but even rare things need care. Never assume silence means nothing is changing." At that time, Lyra didn't fully understand it, but those words stayed somewhere in her memory. Years passed, and their friendship became legendary across the valley. People believed that as long as Lyra and Selene stood together, nothing could ever break Elaria. But what people forget about perfection is that it often hides cracks beneath its surface. That something arrived one morning. He was not royal, not powerful, not important in any political sense. He was simply a traveler named Kale, who had crossed the mountains with nothing but a herd of goats and a tired soul. He had no destination, no purpose, only movement away from a past he never spoke about. He entered Elaria by accident, crossing into the sacred garden where guards immediately noticed him. But before they could remove him, Queen Lyra stopped them. Something about him felt harmless, not dangerous, just lost. Selene observed him from a distance at first. Kale was repairing a broken wooden fence near the river. His movements were careful, slow, respectful, as if he didn't want to disturb anything in that world. When Selene finally approached him, she asked who he was. He smiled faintly and said he didn't know where he truly belonged. Selene didn't treat him as an outsider. She treated him as a human. At first nothing changed. Kale remained just a visitor. But slowly he began to appear more often in the garden, sometimes by coincidence, sometimes by invitation, sometimes just because he felt peace there. And this is where Dowager Queen Eowyn began noticing something subtle. One evening she called Lyra into the old palace hall, a quiet room filled with maps of old wars and memories of past rulers. She asked softly, "Tell me about the traveler." Lyra smiled. "He is just a guest, nothing more." Elowen looked at her carefully and said, "Guests don't stay in thoughts the way you are describing him." Lyra didn't answer. That silence was the first warning. As days passed, Kale's presence became normal in the garden, but emotional balance began to shift. Celine would listen longer when he spoke. She would ask questions she normally wouldn't ask. She would smile slightly more often, and sometimes she would forget the world around her when he was talking. Lyra noticed small changes but didn't confront them immediately, because confronting emotions is harder than ignoring them. But Elowen noticed everything. One night she said to Lyra, "Do not confuse comfort with loyalty. People can be kind to many hearts at once, but friendship demands clarity." Lyra replied, "You think I am losing her?" Elowen answered slowly, "No, I think you are assuming she sees what you see." That sentence stayed in Lyra's mind. Kale never intended anything. He spoke equally to both queens. He never chose sides, but human emotions are rarely about intention. They are about perception. The garden slowly began to feel different. Conversations became shorter, silence became heavier, laughter became rare, and something invisible started building between two queens who once shared everything without hesitation. One evening all three stood near the river, sky glowing orange. Kale spoke about leaving soon. Celine's expression changed slightly. Lyra noticed it instantly, and in that moment something inside Lyra shifted permanently. That night Lyra did not return to the garden. Celine waited, but she never came. Days turned into weeks. Silence grew stronger. Dowager Queen Elowen finally intervened again, calling Celine to the palace under diplomatic invitation. When Celine arrived, Elowen spoke calmly. "I am not here to accuse you. I am here to understand what you are losing without realizing it." Celine replied, "I have not lost anything." Elowen looked at her and said, "That is what people always say, right before loss becomes permanent." Silence followed. Weeks later, Kale prepared to leave the valley. He had always been temporary in that world. He stood at the edge of Elaria for a long time, but he did not know that his presence had already changed two kingdoms without ever trying. He left without saying goodbye. And just like that, the story of Kale ended. But the real story was never about him. It was about what remained after him. The garden still existed, the river still flowed, but something invisible was missing. Lyra and Celine returned months later, but this time Elowen was also present, standing quietly behind Lyra, observing everything. Lyra and Celine stood on opposite sides of the river. Silence felt heavier than ever. Celine finally spoke. "Do you think we changed, or just realized something that was already there?" Lyra looked at her mother first, then at Celine. Elowen spoke softly. "Both, but only one of you is ready to accept it." Lyra finally said, "I lost you the moment I started feeling like I was losing you." Celine whispered, "And I lost you the moment I realized I could no longer explain what I felt." Elowen closed her eyes, understanding the truth she had warned about for years. Sometimes love and friendship don't break because of someone else. They break because silence grows louder than truth. The wind moved gently through the garden, carrying echoes of everything that was never said and everything that could never be fixed. And in the Valley of Elaria, the garden still exists, but those who pass by say if you listen carefully, you can still hear echoes of two queens who once called each other best friends before silence became louder than love. And somewhere in that silence, a mother's warning still lives. Never ignore the first crack in a bond, because even kingdoms fall the same way friendships do, quietly.